My name is Gina Harper, and I've spent the last 12 years making Harper Luxury Stays the top name in mountain vacation rentals. Yesterday, my younger brother Peyton, now CEO, leaned across the boardroom table and snarled, "Apologize to my girlfriend right now, or you're fired." My parents nodded in full agreement, their faces smug. I just looked straight at him and said, "Fine." This morning, Peyton strode into the office smirking, ready to enjoy his victory, until he saw my empty desk and the resignation letter sitting right in the middle. The company lawyer Maurice burst in right behind him, face white as a sheet. "Tell me you didn't send it?" he gasped. Peyton's smile vanished on the spot. The entire conference room went dead silent. If you've ever been pushed out by family, hit that subscribe button and let's get into what happened next. 3 days earlier, everything started with a single video call. Riley, my younger brother's girlfriend, had taken it upon herself to close the biggest deal in company history. On the screen sat a group of ultra-high net worth investors from Charlotte who wanted 42 custom mountain lodges built at the Ridge Collection. Riley, wearing a blazer 2 sizes too big and a smile 3 sizes too confident, promised them full turnkey delivery in 11 months flat. 11 months for a project that every architect, contractor, and permitting office in Western North Carolina knew would take at least 28. I was looped into the call at the last second because the investors specifically asked for the head of project development, which happened to be me. The moment Riley finished her pitch, one of the investors turned to me and asked point blank, "Is 11 months realistic?" I didn't hesitate. "No, 28 months is the absolute earliest, and that assumes zero weather delays and perfect supply chain conditions." Riley's smile froze. The investors thanked us and ended the call. 2 hours later, I sent the official follow-up email to the entire investor group, copying the board and Peyton as CEO. Subject line revised: realistic timeline and cost breakdown, the Ridge Collection. I attached the full feasibility study, permitting schedules, contractor quotes, and a line-by-line budget that showed why 11 months would guarantee either massive corner cutting or a multi-million-dollar lawsuit when we missed the date. It was professional, factual, and necessary. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, Peyton stormed into my office with Riley trailing behind him like she belonged there. "What the hell was that email?" he shouted, slamming his phone on my desk so hard the screen cracked. Riley folded her arms and added, "You just made me look incompetent in front of people who were ready to wire $20 million. I stayed calm. I corrected an impossible promise before it became a legal disaster. That's my job. Peyton's face turned red. "Your job is to make the company look good, not throw my girlfriend under the bus." Riley jumped in again. "I had them eating out of my hand until you opened your mouth." I pointed at the budget on my screen. "Look at the numbers yourself. We can't even break ground until spring because of the seasonal permitting window. You promised move-in ready homes next fall." "That's physically impossible." Peyton waved it away. "We'll figure it out." "We always do." Translation: my team would kill themselves working overtime, while Riley took the credit and the commission. It had happened 4 times in the last 18 months alone, and every time Peyton defended her. He leaned in close. "Take the email back. Send a new one saying 11 months is aggressive but achievable. Do it today." I didn't move. I won't lie to clients who are wiring 8-figure deposits. Riley gave a dramatic sigh. "She's jealous, Peyton. She's been jealous ever since your dad made you CEO." Peyton straightened up, chest puffed out like the title still felt brand new. "Apologize to Riley for undermining her, or this goes to the board as insubordination." I met his eyes. "Do what you have to do." That night, I forwarded the entire exchange to Nash, my second-in-command, with one line: "Start documenting everything. Just in case." I had no idea how fast just in case was about to arrive. I just said fine and stood up from the conference table. No argument, no raised voice. I walked straight out while Peyton kept talking to the air. The board members stared at their laptops like they'd suddenly discovered something fascinating in the spreadsheets. My parents didn't even try to stop me. I took the elevator to the 5th floor, keyed into the corner office that had been mine for 12 years, and started packing. The view of the Blue Ridge Mountains stayed the same, but everything else suddenly felt borrowed. First went the framed permits for every property I'd brought online since I was 26. Then the awards from the North Carolina Vacation Rental Managers Association, 3 years running Best Luxury Portfolio. I wrapped each one in bubble wrap like they were someone else's memories. The team photos came down next 38 people who had trusted me to fight for budget schedules and quality, while Peyton handed out bonuses to his friends. I had built the entire development division from 4 people to 80. Revenue from my projects paid for the private jet Peyton now flew, and the Land Rover Riley drove. Yet every Christmas, my mother Connie still introduced Riley as basically our daughter-in-law, while I got asked when I planned to settle down and give them real grandchildren. Growing up, the favoritism had been subtle but constant. Peyton cried he got the new bike. I earned straight A's. Mom said that's expected from the older one. When Dad decided to step back 3 years ago, he didn't hold a search or look at performance metrics. He simply handed the CEO title to Peyton at his 27th birthday party in front of the entire company. I stood there holding a slice of cake while everyone clapped for my little brother who had never closed a single deal on his own. Mom pulled me aside that night and whispered, "Don't make a scene, Gina. This makes your father happy." From that day forward, Peyton signed the paychecks and Riley started showing up to executive meetings in 6-inch heels, giving creative input nobody asked for. Every time I pushed back on corners they wanted to cut, Mom would call me afterward. "Be supportive. He's your only brother." I kept packing. The ridiculous world's okayest sister mug Peyton gave me as a joke one year went into the trash. The emergency binder I'd built, 300 pages of contractor contacts permitting shortcuts and crisis plans, stayed on the desk. Someone else could figure out how to finish the Ridge collection without it. My phone lit up with texts from the team. Nash wrote first, "They just announced you're suspended without pay until you apologize. What the hell is going on?" Then Sarah, "Is this real?" Marcus sent a simple skull emoji. I typed one reply to the group, "Take care of yourselves. I'll be fine." Then I turned the phone face down and kept boxing. By 6 o'clock, the office looked like I had never existed. 4 cardboard boxes and 1 rolling suitcase held 12 years. I loaded them into my Jeep, shut the door, and sat in the quiet parking garage for a long minute. The weight I'd carried since childhood, the constant need to prove I belonged, suddenly felt lighter than the boxes in the back. I drove home through the mountains as the sun dropped behind the ridges, already knowing exactly what I had to do next. That night, I sat alone in my downtown Asheville loft, a glass of Cabernet in my hand, and the boxes from the office still stacked by the door. I opened my laptop and created a new folder titled Everything. For 5 years, I had quietly saved every single piece of evidence. Every time Riley swapped premium cedar siding for pressure-treated pine to pocket the difference. Every time she forced contractors to sign side letters promising kickbacks that came straight out of our margins. Every time she promised a client an impossible completion date and then blamed my team when we couldn't magically shrink winter. I dragged in the original's architect drawings marked approved next to the cheaper versions that actually got built. Vendor invoices showing 28% markups that disappeared into an LLC registered to her cousin. Recorded calls where she laughed about how nobody ever checks the fine print. Text messages to her friends bragging about the new handbag each closed deal bought her. I built subfolders like a prosecutor. Folder 137, separate overpromised delivery dates. Folder 2, proof those promises had already cost us $430,000 in unbudgeted overtime. Folder 36, ongoing mold lawsuits from earlier properties, where she had quietly deleted humidity barriers to save $8 per square foot. I opened my employment agreement, the one I had negotiated myself when Dad stepped down. Section 8 glowed on the screen. Any disciplinary suspension without documented cause triggered immediate severance of 8 months' salary and accelerated vesting of all restricted stock units. Yesterday morning's suspension had just handed me $680,000 in stock that would hit my account at tomorrow's close. I wrote the resignation letter in 10 minutes, polite, effective immediately, with a single paragraph, citing the 2 clauses and requesting wire instructions by noon tomorrow. Then I wrote the cover email. Subject: full transparency, the Ridge Collection and 5 years of prior projects. Recipients: every board member, every bank officer holding our construction loans, and all 42 investors waiting on the Ridge homes. I attached the entire folder, compressed, password protected, with the password in the body of the email so no one could claim they never received it. I hit send at 11:52 p.m. The second email went to Corbin Reed, my personal attorney of 8 years. 1-line severance clause triggered. Please be ready for closing instructions tomorrow. The third went to Vanessa Brooks, the recruiter who had been courting me for 18 months at the biggest luxury rental competitor in the Southeast. Subject line: available, immediately. I closed the laptop, finished the wine, and slept without a single dream. By sunrise, my phone was already vibrating off the table. Board members requesting emergency meetings, investors asking for immediate conference calls. One frantic voicemail from Maurice that I deleted without listening. I showered, chose the charcoal suit I wore when I closed 8-figure deals, slipped on the watch Dad gave me the day Peyton became CEO, then took it off again and left it on the dresser. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door, ready to collect what was mine and never look back. The next morning at 8:30 sharp, I walked through the lobby one final time in the charcoal suit. Security recognized me and looked away. The elevator ride felt longer than 12 years. When the doors opened on the executive floor, Peyton Riley, my mother Connie, my father Marvin, still listed as chairman emeritus, and Maurice were already waiting outside the boardroom like a badly rehearsed intervention. Peyton spoke first, voice cracking with fake authority. "We need to talk before this goes any further." I kept walking. They fell in step around me. Maurice tried next, clutching a legal pad like a shield. "Gina, the email you sent last night is catastrophic. Investors are threatening to pull deposits. The banks are on the phone. We can still fix this if you issue an immediate retraction." I stopped in front of the boardroom doors and faced them. "No." Riley stepped forward, eyes red but dry. "You're destroying everything we've worked for because you're jealous. Just admit you made a mistake." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out 2 crisp copies, my resignation letter and the severance demand. I handed one set to Morris and one to Peyton. "Effective 5 minutes ago," I said. "Section 8 of my contract is very clear. 8 months' salary plus immediate accelerated vesting of all restricted stock, $680,000 at yesterday's close. Wire instructions are attached. I expect confirmation by end of day." Maurice flipped through the pages, face draining of color. This will bankrupt the company if the stock vests today. Then you should have read the contract before suspending me." My mother finally spoke, voice trembling. "Gina, honey, think of your father. Think of the family name." I looked at Marvin. He hadn't said a word yet. His eyes were fixed on the marble floor. Connie tried again, softer. "We can work this out privately. Come inside, sit down, let's talk like we used to." I smiled for the first time all morning. It wasn't warm. There is no "we" anymore. You made that decision the moment you sat silent while Peyton threatened to suspend me for telling the truth. Peyton found his voice again. "You can't just walk away with almost $700,000 after trying to burn the company down. I'm walking away with exactly what the contract I negotiated says I'm owed. The company is burning because of 5 years of documented fraud you refused to see." Maurice made one last desperate lunge. "If you withdraw the email right now, we'll forget the suspension ever happened. Full pay, backdated, whatever you want." I took one step closer until I was looking him dead in the eye. Maurice, that email is the only thing keeping 42 investors from suing us into bankruptcy today. You want it gone? Tell them yourself why their homes won't be delivered for at least 2 more years, and why half the materials were swapped for garbage. Good luck. I turned to the rest of them. To be perfectly clear, I am no longer an employee. I am now a very large shareholder who just watched management commit fraud. My lawyer, Corbin Reed, will be in touch. I started walking again. Connie reached for my arm. I stopped but didn't turn. Gina, please, she whispered. You're breaking your mother's heart. I looked back over my shoulder. No, Mom. You broke mine a long time ago. I'm just finally done paying for it. I walked away. No one followed this time. The elevator doors closed on 5 stunned faces, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt completely, perfectly free. Less than 2 weeks later, the Ridge collection officially exploded. 38 of the original 42 investors filed a joint federal lawsuit in Charlotte demanding $32 million in compensatory and punitive damages for fraud, breach of contract, deceptive trade practices, and negligent misrepresentation. The 187-page complaint quoted my email verbatim, attached every invoice, change order, and recorded call I had sent, and added new exhibits the banks quietly produced once the construction loans fell into technical default. By the time the filing hit the docket, every major real estate blog in the Southeast had the headline. Nash held on for exactly 9 days after I walked out. On the 9th morning, he marched into Peyton's office, placed his company MacBook on the desk, and said, "I'm not wearing an orange jumpsuit for any of you." He resigned on the spot, signed my new employer's offer that same afternoon, and took 12 of the best senior project managers with him before the week was out. The ones who stayed were either too inexperienced or too terrified to leave. Neither group knew how to finish 42 ultra-luxury homes that were suddenly missing half their structural beams and all of their promised timelines. The company went into full meltdown. Emergency board calls at 3 a.m., crisis PR agencies on 6-figure retainers. Peyton flew first class to Charlotte twice in 4 days, begging the lead investor for a private settlement. They escorted him out of the building and had security walk him to the curb. Then, on a cold, rainy Thursday night, my phone lit up with the old landline from my parents' house in Biltmore Forest, the number I hadn't answered in years. I let it ring 5 times before I picked up. Connie spoke first, voice trembling so hard the speaker crackled. "Gina, honey, we're all here. You're on speaker. Your father, Peyton. We're begging you." Silence from my end. Marvin cleared his throat, the man who once closed 8-figure deals with a handshake now sounding like he hadn't slept in days. "We were wrong. Completely wrong. We see it now. We're so sorry." Peyton jumped in frantic. "The banks are calling every loan tomorrow morning. If we lose the Ridge, we lose the company, the house, the planes. Everything your father built. Everything you built. It's all gone unless you help us." I heard movement then, the unmistakable thud of knees hitting the hardwood floor in the living room I grew up in. Connie started sobbing openly. "We're on our knees, baby. All 3 of us, literally on the floor. Please." Peyton again, voice raw. "Come back. 6 months. Consulting only. Name your price. 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. Whatever you want. Stock. Cash. You write the number. You're the only person alive who can still salvage this." I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of my new corner office in Charlotte, 30 floors above the city, watching rain streak down the glass. The same city where the lawsuit had just been filed. The same city where my new title, Executive Vice President of Development, was already printed on the door. I waited until the crying quieted to hiccups. Then I spoke the only sentence they would ever hear from me again. Never again. I ended the call, blocked the landline, blocked Peyton's cell, blocked Connie's cell, and blocked the house number one last time for good measure. I set the phone face down on the desk, turned back to the rain-slicked skyline, and felt absolutely nothing. 18 months later, Harper Luxury Stays no longer belonged to the Harper family. A private equity group out of Atlanta snapped it up at a fire sale price 42 cents on the dollar of what it had been valued at before the lawsuit. They kept the brand name, fired two-thirds of the remaining staff, and turned the rest into glorified property managers for the few assets that survived foreclosure. Peyton was walked out the same day the deal closed. No severance, no goodbye party. Security escorted him to the parking lot with a single banker's box. The official reason was gross mismanagement and loss of investor confidence, but everyone knew the real one. The new owners didn't want the face of the scandal anywhere near the rebuilt company. Riley lasted exactly 1 week after Peyton lost the title. She packed her designer bags into the Land Rover that was no longer hers, left the keys on the kitchen island, and disappeared. Word came 6 weeks later that she had moved to Miami with a 39-year-old nightclub promoter. Peyton's social media went dark the same day. My parents put the Biltmore Forest estate on the market 3 months after the sale. 8 bedrooms, 12,000 square feet, and 40 years of memories sold for less than they owed the bank. The Florida condo went next to a cash buyer from New York who paid pennies on the dollar. They moved into a 2-bedroom rental in Hendersonville, the kind of place they used to joke about when driving past it on the way to charity galas. Meanwhile, I was named Executive Vice President of Development at Apex Mountain Residences, the largest luxury vacation rental operator in the Southeast, and Harper Luxury Stays' fiercest competitor for a decade. My first official act was greenlighting a 48-home community on the Ridge, directly across the valley from what used to be the Ridge Collection, now a half-finished ghost town of framed skeletons and liens. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Nash ran the construction side. Sarah handled permitting. Marcus oversaw design. 12 former Harper employees now sat in the top roles at Apex, and every one of them had a story about the day they decided loyalty to the family name wasn't worth their careers. I still lived in the same Charlotte loft, but the view had changed. My office sat 32 floors above the city, and the portfolio under my control had tripled in size. Revenue was up 47% year over year. The board gave me a standing ovation at the annual meeting when I presented the numbers. I never checked the old Harper website again. I didn't need to. The new owners had scrubbed every trace of the founding family from the About page. The only reminder left was a faded bronze plaque in the lobby of the original office building that no one bothered to take down. Some nights, I drove the hour back to Asheville just to see the lights from my new development twinkling across the valley, bright, orderly, and on schedule. The skeletons on the opposite ridge stayed dark. I never felt triumph. I never felt pity. I just felt finished. The story was over, and I had written the last line myself. Today, a text thread appeared from 3 numbers I thought were dead and buried. The first was Peyton's old personal cell. The second belonged to Connie. The third was the ancient landline from the house that no longer carried our name. They had created a group chat titled Family. Peyton wrote first the words, shaky even in print. Gina, we know you hate us. We deserve it. But please, just one dinner, 1 hour. We want to look you in the eye, explain everything, and apologize properly. No excuses, no asking for anything. Just us saying we're sorry for the rest of our lives. Please. Connie followed with a voice note, 31 seconds of raw crying. Baby, I was blind. I chose the wrong child every single day. I see it now. I lost you, and I lost everything else because of it. If you never speak to me again, I understand, but please, let me say it to your face, just once. Marvin sent a single photograph, the 3 of them sitting on a plain couch in a rental living room. I didn't recognize, holding a handwritten sign that read, "We were wrong," in thick black marker. Another message from Peyton. We'll come to Charlotte, or meet anywhere you say. Neutral ground. We just want 5 minutes of your time before you close the door forever. I read every word twice. Then I pressed and held each of the 3 numbers. Block this contact. Yes. 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 The screen went quiet. I set the phone on the marble island, poured myself a glass of water, and looked out over the city I now called home. They finally understood the cost of choosing favoritism over fairness, of choosing comfort over truth, of choosing the easy child over the one who carried the weight. I wasn't going to give them the relief of hearing my voice confirm it. Some apologies arrive too late to matter. Some doors once closed stay closed. I had built a life without them, and it was brighter, cleaner, and more honest than anything they had ever offered. The chapter was finished the day I walked out. Today, I simply turned the page and kept reading forward.